Explain for our audience how it works. I mean, there are existing faults below the Earth's surface, basically a sort of discontinuity in the rock. And when high-pressure liquids are injected below the surface of the Earth, as a fracking operation does, it stimulates these faults, but it doesn't actually create faults, right?
Well, so they are actually trying to create fractures in the target layer that has sort of the gas and oil trapped in it. So they're trying to sort of open up pores there for that material to come out. But very rarely do we see any cases where other sorts of earthquakes are being produced. And so, the case that we're seeing here, where we're seeing, up to a magnitude 3 earthquake, we don't think that magnitude 3 earthquake is a new fault being generated. That the rock layer that those earthquakes are happening in is a very old and faulted layer of the Earth that's below the sort of sedimentary rocks that have been laid down over millions of years. And so it's common to see earthquakes sort of in that sort of deeper layer. It just appears in this case that the fracking operation sort of pushed it a little bit to slip at this time when the fracking was taking place.
And so this was a fault that wasn't previously known. And because this earthquake that was felt, I assume it then enabled people to go and check and realize that there was this fault that just hadn't been mapped before. So we don't really know. It could be that any place where there are fracking operations, there could be unmapped faults that could then get triggered into earthquakes that can be felt by us.
Right, and so this is an important point. So, again, I should start with just the general background that there are tens of thousands of fracking operations around the world, and we very rarely see earthquakes like this. But it does appear that when they happen, there are these sort of faults that they happen to go nearby that then get triggered. And so, it's important to point out also that this is not sort of lack of due diligence by the companies. That these kinds of faults that in the case that we're seeing here are primarily moving horizontally, right? So we're not talking about faults that move vertically. Those would be a lot easier to see in the scans that they typically do before they do their drilling. These kind of horizontal motion faults, those would be much harder to see in those scans. And so it doesn't seem unusual to us that people would not have recognized a fault like this beforehand. And so we're really advocating with a study like this that what we just need is new technology, like we're sort of demonstrating with this study, that can help identify these faults on the fly, right? That if you're sort of scanning for earthquakes while the operations are taking place, you can recognize when an earthquake is happening and see whether or not there's a series of them that we can then try and identify where that fault is and avoid it with the ongoing operations.